Chief Engineer Vec Tolren stood at the observation deck of the Galactic Alliance flagship Stellar Dominance, his 4 eyes fixed on the blue-green marble suspended in the void before him. His upper lip curled in what his species considered a gesture of refined contempt. "So, this is the notorious Sol 3, he announced to his assembled engineering team. "This is what has the High Command so concerned?" Commander Lara Brix, his second-in-command, moved to stand beside him. Her crystalline skin caught the starlight as she consulted her datapad. "The inhabitants call it Earth," she said, managing to make the word sound like something unpleasant stuck in her throat. "Though I fail to see why we're wasting our time observing such a backwater planet." "Protocol demands we assess all potential threats before the invasion," Vec replied, his voice dripping with bureaucratic boredom. "Even if those threats are," he paused for effect, "primitive Deathworlders who think nuclear fission is an achievement." The assembled team of 12 elite engineers, the finest minds in the Galactic Alliance, shared a moment of superiority-laden amusement. Their laughter, a mix of clicks and whistles, echoed through the observation deck. "Our planetary defense grid designs are the most sophisticated in known space," Vec continued, gesturing to the holographic displays surrounding them. "We've subjugated 47 worlds in the past cycle alone. These humans won't even see it materialize before it's too late." Senior Engineer Pax Null, their systems specialist, cleared her throat. "Sir, about the humans, there's something you should see." She projected a new hologram, showing live feeds from various military academies across Earth. "We've been monitoring their training facilities as ordered, and well—" She trailed off, looking uncomfortable. "Well, what?" Vec demanded, all 4 eyes focusing on her with laser intensity. "Speak up, Null." "They're holding some sort of competition today, across all their major military academies, simultaneously." Pax zoomed in on one feed, showing hundreds of human cadets gathering in their respective locations. "They're calling it the annual Global Defense Grid Speed Building Championship." The room fell silent. 8 different species of engineers stared at the feeds, with varying expressions of disbelief. "Speed? Building?" Commander Brix's crystalline form flickered with confusion. "Surely you mean they're running simulations?" "No, Commander," Pax replied, her voice tight. "They're doing it for real, with actual materials. And according to their communications—" She swallowed hard. "They're treating it like some sort of sports event." Vec let out a laugh that sounded more like a cough. "Let them play their games. Document their primitive attempts. It might provide some amusement during our victory celebration." He turned back to the window, smugness radiating from every pore. "Begin monitoring procedures. I want every moment of this recorded for post-invasion analysis." Little did Chief Engineer Vec Tolren know he had just initiated the most humbling documentation in Galactic Alliance history. The monitoring chamber aboard the Stellar Dominance erupted into chaos as the human competition began. Multiple holographic feeds displayed scenes from different Earth military academies, each one more bewildering than the last. They're not even following basic safety protocols." Engineer Pax Null's voice cracked as she watched a group of cadets at West Point practically sprinting with plasma containment units. "Those are clearly marked 'Handle with extreme caution,' and they're passing them like some sort of primitive sports equipment." Commander Brix's crystalline form pulsed with alarming frequencies as she watched the feeds. "Chief Engineer, are you seeing this? The Tokyo Academy team is installing their power grid backwards." "Backwards?" Vec Tolren scoffed, but as he focused his 4 eyes on the feed, his confident demeanor cracked slightly. That's impossible. The power surge would theoretically create a recursive energy loop that should vaporize half their continent." Senior Engineer Dex Mora, their power systems expert, interrupted. Then his jaw dropped. "By the void, they're using the feedback to amplify their shield capacity. That's That's not in any known engineering manual. The chamber's atmosphere grew increasingly tense as more violations of established engineering principles unfolded before their eyes. At the Indian Defence Academy, cadets were literally throwing shield generator components to each other across a 100-meter gap, catching them with frightening accuracy while simultaneously running complex calibration sequences. "Time check," someone shouted from the observation pit. 15 minutes since they started," Pax responded, her voice weak. They're already at 30% completion across all sites." Vec's professional composure began to slip. "But our fastest deployment teams take at least 6 hours to—" "This has to be a mistake. Run diagnostics on our monitoring equipment." "Already did, sir. Twice." Commander Brix's crystalline surface had taken on a sickly pale hue. "Everything's functioning perfectly. We're watching this in real time." The feeds from the Russian Academy drew particular attention, as their team had apparently decided to ignore the concept of sequential installation entirely. Components that should, by all known laws of physics and engineering, be installed in a specific order were being assembled simultaneously. "That's not— You can't—" Dex Mora was practically hyperventilating. "The probability calculations alone should take hours. They're doing complex quantum harmonization equations in their heads while joking with each other. Indeed, the human cadets seemed to be treating the whole exercise as some sort of entertainment. They were laughing, shouting encouragement, making what appeared to be competitive boasts, and even singing in some cases. "Sir," Pax called out, her voice trembling, "the Australian team they just—" She couldn't even finish her sentence. Vec turned to their feed and felt his blood run cold. The Australian cadets had taken what appeared to be a standard shield modulator and reconfigured it into something entirely different in under 2 minutes, with a socket wrench and what looked suspiciously like a beverage can. "That's not regulation equipment," Commander Brix shrieked, her crystalline form now vibrating at an alarming frequency. "They're modifying military-grade hardware with— Is that what humans call a hammer?" The observation chamber had devolved into a scene of professional crisis. Engineers were pulling at their various appendages, making distressed noises, or simply staring in mute horror at the violations of everything they held sacred. "The Brazilian team is using what appears to be a local beverage called coffee to cool their plasma injectors," one junior engineer reported, their voice dead inside. And it's working better than our standard coolant compounds." Vec Tolren watched as his carefully maintained worldview began to crumble. These humans weren't just building defense grids. They were reinventing fundamental engineering principles on the fly, casually defying the laws of physics and treating the whole thing like some sort of entertaining diversion. "Sir?" Commander Brix's voice had taken on a peculiar pitch. "I've been analyzing their efficiency rates, at their current pace." She paused, running the calculations again as if hoping for a different result. "They're going to complete full planetary defense grid deployment in under an hour." The room fell silent except for the sounds of human laughter and casual conversation coming from the feeds. Someone in the back of the chamber made a sound that might have been a sob. Vec stared at the main display, watching as the humans continued their impossible work with the relaxed attitude of people who were, inconceivably, enjoying themselves. His upper right eye developed a nervous twitch as he watched a cadet at the German Academy balance a fusion core on her head while simultaneously rewiring a shield matrix with her feet. "Update their threat classification," he whispered hoarsely. "Update it now." "To what level, sir?" Pax asked, though from her tone she already knew the answer. "All of them," Vec replied, not taking his eyes off the screens. "All the levels." The chamber's occupants watched in collective existential dread as the humans continued to casually reshape their understanding of engineering, physics, and the possible, all while treating it as nothing more serious than a friendly competition. The next 15 minutes aboard the Stellar Dominance would later be classified as Traumatic Event Zero for multiple species of the engineering crew. The humans had moved beyond merely ignoring proper protocols They were actively inventing new ones that defied explanation. The British team just created a quantum harmonic resonance field by whistling at it, Senior Engineer Dex Mora reported, his professional demeanour completely shattered. They're synchronizing shield frequencies through musical coordination. That's not how quantum mechanics works. Vec Tolren had given up on maintaining his composure. All four of his eyes were now twitching independently as he watched the feeds. The Canadian team. What are they doing with that hockey stick? You don't want to know, sir, Commander Brix responded, her crystalline form now clouded with stress fractures. But they've somehow improved power transfer efficiency by 300% using it. They're calling it the slap shot method. The observation chamber had transformed into something resembling a therapy session for traumatized engineers. Junior Engineer Telpod was curled up in a corner, rocking back and forth while clutching his engineering manual like a comfort object. There are rules, he kept whispering. There are rules. Rules? Pax Null laughed hysterically. The South Korean team just rewrote the rules of thermodynamics. Look, they're using what they call kimchi to catalyze their reactor cores. The fermentation process is somehow stabilizing the atomic structure and improving efficiency. A loud crash drew everyone's attention to the French Academy feed. The human cadets had apparently decided that the standard vertical arrangement of defense towers was too boring. They were now installing them sideways, claiming it created better aerodynamic flow for the shield bubbles. That's not even a real concept, Dex screamed at the screen. Shield bubbles don't have aerodynamics, but their power readings are off the charts. How? The Mexican Academy team had taken innovation to an entirely new level. They'd integrated their local cuisine's spice profiles into the targeting algorithm, creating what they called salsa-guided interceptors that could track incoming threats through dimensional barriers that shouldn't even exist. Sir, a shell-shocked analyst reported, I've compiled the efficiency ratings of their innovations against our standard protocols. He paused, staring at his datapad in disbelief. They're exceeding our best theoretical models by factors we don't have numbers for. Vec had stopped giving orders. He stood transfixed, watching as the American team started what they called a speed-run attempt. They had apparently decided that normal construction methods were too slow and were now using a combination of skateboarding and energy drink-fueled acrobatics to install defense nodes. The Italian team is serenading their shield generators, Commander Brix reported, her voice hollow. They claim it improves harmonic resonance. The worst part, they're right. Power output is up 500% and still climbing. In the back of the chamber, Senior Engineer Lux Van, their theoretical physics expert, was furiously scribbling equations on every available surface, including other crew members. This violates everything we know about. Everything. They're not just thinking outside the box, they've forgotten boxes exist. The Israeli team had introduced something they called speed dating to their construction process, claiming that matching compatible components based on personality improved system integration. The resulting power grid was achieving synergy levels that made several alien calculators explode in protest. Update from the Chinese Academy, Pax announced, her voice quavering. They've developed a new shield configuration based on their ancient feng shui principles. It's rerouting energy through dimensional spaces we didn't know existed. The Spanish team is now taking a break, someone reported incredulously. They call it a siesta, but their automated systems are working faster while they're napping. That can't. Vec finally found his voice. How? He croaked. How are they doing this? Sir? Commander Brix approached him cautiously, her crystalline form now showing visible cracks from stress. The humans have a saying we've detected multiple times in their communications. They keep referring to something called YOLO. Translate it, Vec ordered, dreading the response. It means you only live once, Pax explained, checking her cultural database. It appears to be their justification for ignoring physical laws and engineering principles that conflict with their desired outcomes. The chamber fell silent as this information sank in. On the screens, human cadets continued their impossible work, their laughter and casual banter a stark contrast to the existential crisis they were causing among the galaxy's finest engineers. "They're not just building a defense grid," Lux Van whispered, still scribbling equations. "They're rewriting the fundamental laws of the universe because they think it's fun." The Indian team chose that moment to demonstrate something they called yoga-enhanced quantum entanglement, which somehow involved doing handstands while synchronizing particle pairs. The resulting energy readings caused 3 more alien calculators to commit digital suicide in protest. New competition record. The announcement echoed through all feeds, followed by cheering that sent shivers down various alien spines. These humans weren't just succeeding, they were keeping score. Time. The synchronized shout from all human academies caused several alien engineers to jump in alarm. Commander Brix's crystalline form briefly transformed into a wind chime from pure shock. 47 minutes and 13 seconds, Pax Null announced, her voice barely a whisper. They've completed full planetary defense grid deployment. All sites, simultaneously. She paused, checking her instruments for the 100th time. "And everything is working perfectly." Chief Engineer Vec Tolren stood motionless, all 4 eyes fixed on the main display where humans were now celebrating, high-fiving, and— was that dancing? His left antenna drooped in defeat as the preliminary analysis scrolled across his screen. "Sir?" Dex Mora approached cautiously, holding a datapad like it might explode. "You need to see these numbers, though I suggest you sit down first." "Just tell me," Vec replied, not taking his eyes off the celebrating humans. "Their system efficiency exceeds our best designs by— Dex swallowed hard. By 2,347%, and that's just the basic metrics. When we factor in their innovations—" He trailed off, making a small choking sound. "What about their innovations?" Vec asked, dreading the answer. "The Mexican team's salsa-guided targeting system can track objects that don't technically exist yet," Commander Brix interjected, her voice cracking like her crystalline surface. "The French sideways towers have somehow achieved negative power consumption. They're generating more energy than they use, and the Australian team's beverage can modifications." She stopped, unable to continue. On the screens, the human cadets were now comparing times and techniques, treating the reconstruction of physics as some sort of casual sporting event. The British team was teaching others their quantum harmonization whistling technique, while the Canadian team demonstrated their hockey stick power transfer method to enthusiastic audiences. "Listen to this," Pax called out, playing an intercepted conversation between 2 human instructors. "Not bad for a practice run," one human said, checking their timepiece. "Though I bet we can shave another 5 minutes off if we let them use skateboards for the high-altitude installations next time." "Practice run?" Telpod whimpered from his corner, still clutching his now thoroughly violated engineering manual. "Next time," another engineer echoed, their species equivalent of skin turning an alarming shade of grey. The chamber's holoprojector suddenly displayed a new set of readings that caused senior engineer Lux Van to faint dead away. The South Korean kimchi-catalyzed reactors were achieving fusion temperatures that their instruments couldn't even measure, while simultaneously remaining cool enough to touch. "Sir," Commander Brix's voice had taken on the tone of someone delivering their own eulogy. "The humans are uploading their results to something called, quote, speedgrid.com. It appears to be a competition website where they share techniques and post records." "Records?" Vec asked weakly. "Yes, sir. Today's time wasn't even their best. The current record holder is a team from New Zealand who completed their grid in 43 minutes, using something called rugby tactics and a modified sheep-shearing technique." The observation chamber descended into chaos as this information sank in. Several engineers began writing resignation letters. One started composing a religious text based on the day's events. Telpod had progressed from rocking to trying to eat his engineering manual, presumably to destroy the evidence of everything they'd thought they knew. "Look at them," Vec whispered, watching the humans celebrate. "They don't even realize what they've done. They're treating it like a game," Pax finished for him. "Sir, I've analyzed their communications throughout the event. They were making jokes, sharing memes, discussing weekend plans. One cadet was apparently streaming the whole thing to something called Twitch while giving engineering tutorials." A new alert caught everyone's attention. The Italian team had begun serenading their completed grid again, and the harmonic resonance was somehow creating a defensive capability that existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously. "Update from Cultural Analysis," a junior analyst reported, their voice trembling. "These events are apparently held monthly, for training purposes. The real competition season doesn't start for another 3 weeks." The room temperature dropped several degrees as this information registered. Even Commander Brix's crystalline form seemed to pale. 3 weeks? Vec repeated numbly. "You mean they're going to do this again? But faster? And with more innovations," Pax added, scanning through human social media feeds. "Apparently, someone's grandmother suggested using knitting patterns for shield matrix configuration, and they're eager to try it out." The main screen showed the German team now teaching others how to balance fusion cores while tap dancing, claiming it improved gravitational stability. The Russian team was demonstrating their simultaneous installation technique using what appeared to be a complex series of hand gestures and interpretive dance. "Sir?" Commander Brix approached Vec, her form now riddled with stress fractures. Should we update High Command about our invasion plans?" Vec stared at the celebration unfolding across Earth's military academies. Teams were exchanging techniques, planning future speed runs, and casually discussing ways to further violate the laws of physics. Someone mentioned something about using pizza dough tossing techniques for plasma containment next time. "No," he said finally, his voice hollow. "No, Commander. We're going to delete these records, wipe the nav data, and find a nice quiet sector of space where physics still makes sense." He paused, watching a human cadet backflip over a defense tower while perfectly calibrating its quantum field. "And we're never ever going to speak of this again." The emergency meeting of the Stellar Dominance's command staff began exactly as one might expect, with Chief Engineer Vec Toll-Ren having a complete nervous breakdown in front of the assembled military leadership. "You don't understand," he shouted, waving all 4 arms frantically at the holographic display. "They use coffee as a coolant. They stabilize quantum fields with whistling. Their defense grid runs on friendship and memes." High Admiral Zen Krath, Supreme Commander of the Invasion Fleet, stared at his Chief Engineer with growing concern. In 30 cycles of military service, he'd never seen a more decorated engineering officer reduced to such a state. "Perhaps," the Admiral suggested carefully, "you should start from the beginning." Commander Brix stepped forward, her crystalline form now held together with what appeared to be adhesive tape and positive thinking. "Sir, we observed the humans conducting what they call a speed-running competition for planetary defense grid construction." "A what?" The Admiral's secondary breathing sacs inflated in confusion. "They turn it into a sport, sir," Pax Null explained, her voice carrying the 1,000-yard stare of someone who had seen too much. "They compete to see who can build the most efficient defense system in the least time while using the most ridiculous methods possible." The holoprojector displayed footage from the event. The Admiral's jaw dropped as he watched humans skateboarding with plasma containment units, playing music to shield generators, and using food items to enhance reactor performance. "This can't be real," he muttered. "Oh, it gets worse," Senior Engineer Dex Mora chimed in, twitching slightly. "We've discovered they maintain something called a leaderboard. They're actively competing to make their defense systems more efficient through increasingly insane methods." The Admiral watched as the footage showed the Australian team's beverage can modifications. His secondary heart stopped briefly. "But that's impossible? Insane? A complete violation of every known law of physics? Vec laughed hysterically. Welcome to Earth, Admiral, where the laws of physics are treated as polite suggestions and engineering principles are more like guidelines that exist to be creatively interpreted. The command staff watched in horrified fascination as more footage played. The Canadian hockey stick power transfer method, the Mexican salsa-guided targeting system, the German fusion core tap dancing technique. Their efficiency ratings, Commander Brix reported, her voice cracking like her surface, exceed our best designs by margins we can't even calculate without inventing new mathematics. And they achieved this while making jokes, taking selfies and planning their weekend social activities. Surely this is just a small group of exceptional... the Admiral began. It's their standard training program, Vec shrieked, his professional composure now a distant memory. They do this monthly, for fun. The real competitions haven't even started yet. The command chamber fell silent as this information sank in. On screen, a human cadet was explaining their pizza dough tossing plasma containment technique to an enthusiastic audience. Admiral, Senior Tactician Krelmok spoke up. I recommend we classify Sol 3 as a Class X unstable reality zone. Their casual disregard for universal constants poses an existential threat to organized space-time. Seconded, came a chorus of voices from the engineering team. Admiral Krath watched as the footage showed humans celebrating their achievements with something called a dance-off, while their impossible defense grid hummed efficiently in the background. The Italian team's operatic shield harmonics were causing nearby quantum fields to spontaneously organize into chord progressions. What about our invasion plans? He asked weakly. Sir, Vec stepped forward, suddenly serious. These humans rebuilt their entire planetary defense system in under an hour, while treating it as an entertaining diversion. Do you really want to see what they're capable of when they're actually trying? The chamber fell silent again. The holoprojector showed the British team teaching their quantum harmonization whistling technique to others, while the Russian team demonstrated their simultaneous installation interpretive dance. New reports coming in, sir, Pax announced gravely. They're already planning next month's event. Someone's grandmother suggested using crochet patterns for shield matrix configuration, and She paused, checking her datapad twice. They're genuinely excited about it. Admiral Krath slumped in his command chair. Send word to High Command. Earth is to be classified as an Omega-level reality distortion zone. No invasion fleet may approach within 10 parsecs without signed waivers and reality anchors. Excellent decision, sir. Commander Brix nodded, a piece of her crystalline form falling off with the motion. Shall I include the footage of the Spanish team's Siesta-enhanced automation systems in the report? No, the Admiral replied firmly. No evidence, nothing. As far as the rest of the galaxy is concerned, this sector is simply weird. We don't need mass panic when word gets out that humans are casually rewriting the laws of physics because they think it's entertaining. And the engineering team, sir? Vec asked hopefully. Immediate reassignment to the boring nebula sector, the Admiral declared, where the most exciting thing is watching gas clouds slowly rotate, and scheduled therapy sessions. Lots of therapy sessions. As the command staff filed out, Admiral Krath watched one final clip of humans celebrating their achievement. They were already planning improvements for next time, discussing ways to incorporate skateboarding, knitting, and something called interpretive yodeling into their defense grid construction techniques. Mark this sector as Here Be Dragons on all official maps, he ordered his navigation officer, and add a note. Dragons are the least of your concerns. Final report, classified, from Chief Engineer Vec Tolren, Sol 3 Defense Grid Analysis. Status, please send help. To Galactic Alliance High Command Engineering Division, I hereby submit my final report regarding the Sol 3 Planetary Defense Analysis, along with my immediate resignation and request for reassignment to literally anywhere else in the galaxy. Preferably somewhere with predictable physics and no humans. Summary of findings. Nothing makes sense anymore. The humans have not only mastered our most advanced defense technologies, they've turned them into some sort of recreational activity. They call it competitive engineering. The very phrase makes me need to lie down. Attached is my formal recommendation to classify Earth as a reality-optional zone. Note that during our observation period, we witnessed no less than 47 violations of fundamental universal constants, all accompanied by human laughter and something they call high fives. On a personal note, I've been having nightmares about their hockey stick power transfer method. The sound of whistling now causes me to break out in a cold sweat, and I can no longer look at beverage cans without experiencing severe anxiety. However, the most disturbing revelation came just as we were preparing to leave Sol space. We intercepted what appeared to be a casual conversation between two human cadets. "Hey, think those alien observers enjoyed the show?" "Probably, though next time we should really give them something to write home about. Maybe we'll try the zero-gravity parkour installation method." LOL. Did you see their faces when we started the kimchi reactor sequence? They knew we were watching the entire time, and they decided to turn it into an entertainment program. I am now convinced that humans are not simply Deathworlders. They are chaos entities who have somehow achieved physical form and decided to use their powers to make engineering both impossible and fun at the same time. In conclusion, I formally request 1. Immediate reassignment to the most boring sector of space available. 2. Extensive therapy. 3. A solemn oath from High Command that we never, ever attempt to invade Earth. P.S. My entire engineering team has already submitted their transfers. Half of them are requesting assignments to deep space meditation colonies. The other half are considering career changes to become artists or poets. Anything that doesn't require them to watch humans casually violate the laws of physics while making jokes about it. PPS. The humans have just announced something called Extreme Defense Grid Parkour Championships for next month. I strongly suggest we evacuate this entire sector of the galaxy. With deepest trauma, Chief Engineer Vec Tolren. Note: this report was found accompanied by a human sticky note reading "Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel, Sci-Fi Universe, for more engineering speedruns."